How did one man take a 30-day challenge on TikTok and his passion for telling stories about music to over 500,000 followers? And more importantly, what can you learn from his journey? Well, luckily for you, that's exactly what we're going to talk about in today's episode. Welcome to the Storytelling Lab, where we break down the art and science of storytelling. My name is Bennett. I am your host, and I'm a filmmaker and an author on a quest to understand how we can tell better stories so that we can do better work and make the world a better place. Each episode, I host one of the world's best storytellers to help you understand how to leverage storytelling to increase your sales, deepen your connections, and serve your audiences better. What's up, storytellers? Welcome back to the Storytelling Lab podcast. This is episode 209, and today my guest is Patrick Hicks. This man was once a kid who loved music so much that he read every music biography that his father would bring home from the library, and then he grew up. He went on to move away and go to law school and get a corporate job, and then one day, at 39 years old, he said, I need a new creative outlet. What if I started telling the stories of these bands and musicians that I love so much? And he has grown his TikTok channel now to over 500,000 followers. What if I told you that his videos are 10 minutes long sometimes and they're just shot on his phone? There's no special production studio. There's no consistent graphics that he uses. There's no hacks, no trends, no tricks, just good, entertaining, inspiring, and informative content about music and the role that music plays in our own stories. Patrick Hicks' Music Stories has been around since he started that TikTok channel with his 30-day challenge, and he has a new show called The Guest List, which has had amazing guests on it where they talk about the soundtrack of their lives. When I think about films, my favorite scenes are ones that are inherently tied together with the song that plays during that scene. You probably think about your past and growing up and songs that are forever stamped to a certain period of time in your life, and they play a significant role in your life. How do you take that and make a whole content machine that amasses over 500,000 followers? Well, we learn a lot about how to follow your own curiosity, how to talk about the things that you're passionate about and just trust in that and consistently deliver the value that you deliver. It's not about chasing trends. It's not about even chasing followers. It's about chasing your curiosity, listening to your inner critic and your instincts, following your instincts, talking about the things that light your heart on fire and being passionate about. And guess what? If you can find a way to connect with other people through those universal experiences like music, like the roles of songs in our lives, the soundtrack of our lives, then you make a deep connection and you establish a community, an audience that shows up for the stories that you have to tell. This is my conversation with Patrick Hicks, and I hope that you love it. Patrick, welcome to the Storytelling Lab.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited for this conversation. One, I think my audience and I both have a lot to learn, but also I think we grew up around the same era and like a lot of the same music. So we may digress and tangent a little bit and just nerd out about bands. We'll see where it goes. Yeah. First of all, I just want to say that I'm always really fascinated with our paths, right? And all the twists and turns, our stories, if you will.
Right.
And I wanted to ask you, what do you think young Patrick would think, nerding out about music, getting fed these? I love that your father would buy you these music biographies. And, decades later, here you are essentially making music biographies as your daily life. I just think that's such a crazy, not coincidence, but awesome turn of events.
Yeah, I think young Patrick would be surprised. I think I always felt very insecure about my music knowledge. I always felt like other people were cooler and they knew more than me. Like when I went into a record store, I was very oh my God, I hope they don't judge me for whatever I pick. So yeah, I think I would find it very strange to be in this place where kind of people are like, wow, you know a lot about music. Because and maybe that's why I became so obsessed, but I always felt like I was catching up. Like everybody knows every band and I don't. And I would look at people's I grew up going to punk shows. So I would like look at people's jackets and their patches and be like, oh my gosh, they know so many bands. And like, I got to learn about all these bands. Maybe I wasn't giving myself enough credit, but yeah, I think I would be surprised to find out where I was.
I think there's a lesson there too about just the way people present themselves and what actually might be the real story. You know,
Right.
if you pick away at it a little bit, who kind of like got you into the space? For me, I had an older Gen X brother who just like knew all music, kind of like the people you're talking about, and introduced me. Did you have someone that kind of like guided you into that world?
Not really. I had just kind of friends that were my own age that we were all getting into this music at the same time. And it was kind of like we were all getting it from different places. Like I had one friend who had an uncle that gave him like a cassette tape collection. And then we, went through all that. But it was really just like learning from other people and meeting people at shows and going to see bands and, okay, what songs are they covering? Who are they listing as their influences? And it was just kind of like piecing everything together that way. I don't have older brothers or sisters, so I never really had that like kind of shaman, guiding me into
That's a
music.
good
It
one.
was just like discovering whatever I can as much as I can.
Yeah, yeah. There is, there's always a flip side to it, right? Because the I don't want to say negative side to that is like you get locked into that person's taste. Even though my brother had a wide taste, it took a while for me to find my own identity, right?
Yeah.
In terms of like,
Yeah.
okay, well, what? Yeah, but what do I like? And eventually that happened. When did that mindset of like I'm playing catch up or I don't know as much as them, whoever them is, when did that change or has that changed along your journey?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe like as I kind of moved on from like playing in bands and I went back to school and I was kind of around people that were not so music obsessed. I think that's when I started to realize like, oh, I'm not normal. Like I didn't realize how much I knew about music and that the average person didn't. Like I remember I went to law school and I made a really, really good friend there. It was still a close friend and he owned like two CDs, and it was like a Red Hot Chili Peppers CD and a Wallflowers CD. And I was like, this was in the 2000s. This was like 2010. And I was like, you're still listening to the Wallflowers? These are the only two CDs he owned. And sorry, Jess, to call you out like this, but like I was like, oh, okay, maybe I know a freakish amount of music. And then years later, I met my wife, and she knows a lot about music but not to the kind of insane level of like knowing the biographies. Like she knows more lyrics than I do. But then if
Mm.
I'm like, oh, do you know how this band got their start? She's like, no, I don't even know the names of the members of the band. So that's when I started to realize, yeah. So not until I was an adult that I realized like, oh, maybe I had an unhealthy obsession with music. But I found a way to put it to good use.
Does she get annoyed when you drop like trivia and facts about bands in normal life?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit to the point of like, because I like to, like tell her a story, and
Yeah, yeah,
a lot of times she's like, "Okay, I don't have time for this. Can you
yeah.
just like get to the point?" But I mean, she also watches all my videos, so sometimes like I'll be telling her a story, and she'll be like, "Save that for a video. I'll watch it when you make a video about it."
Hmm.
So
No, well, that's nice. That's supportive. Where did you grow up? Like to have all those friends that were music nerds the same way.
I grew up in Southern California.
Uh-huh.
I'm from Anaheim, and
Okay.
yeah, we're just weirdly suburban Orange County
Yeah.
has always had this thriving punk scene. Something about I don't know, like being in the suburbs, you have to like find your tribe of weirdos. And yeah, so I just grew up going to punk shows, and my group of friends in high school. It's like we didn't have a lot of punks, so it's like three punks, one metal kid, one goth kid. We kind of like all formed a group together, um, and yeah, so like everybody in my circle of friends was obsessed with music, and then we would go to shows and meet other people. So
Yeah, it's funny
uh,
unless you know that area, like Southern California outside of the Los Angeles area, just south of that, that absolutely has its own identity. And if you know, you know. So I totally get what you're talking about.
yeah,
Um,
there was a article. It was actually a review of a band I was in where this writer for the OC Weekly, which is like the paper down there, that was like, when things get weird in Orange County, things get really weird. And I was like, yeah, that's probably a good example. Like most stuff is normal and boring, but when you get weird, it gets real weird.
It's funny to see how that group, that population you're talking about, has like aged and evolved over the years, because the identity of that area of California is it's interesting to watch as we grow. And that's all.
I haven't been back. I live in Chicago now, so I haven't lived there in like 15 years, but
yeah,
it was a good place to grow up.
Nice. How many shows do you have now? Is it 3?
How many like different podcasts do I have?
Yeah, because I know you have, like, the reason I reached out was the guest list. Like, that was, I was familiar with your work before that, but I just thought that was such a cool idea, because it really connected with me in terms of, you know, the soundtrack of our lives, right? I have a filmmaking background, so that spoke to me well. So, but you still have like music stories one as well, right?
Yes, I try to do a lot of different things. So the guest list is kind of my newest project, where I'm talking with people about like the songs that shaped their lives, and we're building a playlist together. And the idea is, it's like the old Inside the Actor Studio. It's like the same questions, but how are people going to ask these same questions? And nobody is going to have the same 10 songs for these 10 questions. Like, it really is like a fingerprint of your life. So that's kind of the newest thing I've been doing, and you know, I'm doing it every week. But I'm still doing my regular content, which is what I started doing on social media, is like little music documentaries, like little 5 to 10 minute biographies, mostly of like artist origin stories. That's kind of what I'm most interested in. So I'm still doing that. I did have a podcast a year or two ago called Good Measure, that was more similar to the music stories, but it was like 3 stories in one episode, all around a theme. And that was kind of just too much work. It was unsustainable to keep doing that by myself. I mean, do everything by myself. So it's difficult to maintain, but people do still ask about that one. If that will ever come back, but probably not until, you know, this is my full-time job, then maybe. But for now, the guest list is a little more, it's an interview show. It's a little more easy to put out every week.
Yeah. Was Good Measure intended to be a limited series, for lack of a better term, or did you just kind of phase it out?
It was envisioned in seasons. So I did like one season that was a certain number of episodes, and then I thought I would never do it again because it was so hard. But so many people asked about it. I was like, okay, I'll do another one. So I did a second season that was like 6 episodes. And then I'm like, I just can't. It's too much work with, you know, I have a regular full-time job and 2 kids and a wife. So, you know, I had to put it on the back burner for a while.
Well, I think there's an interesting opportunity in the podcast space to have these limited series where it's just like, I am going to create a long format show or story, if it's, you know, fictional, and that be it, and not have it just being this ongoing thing. So I'm interested in that approach, kind of like the serial approach, right?
Yeah.
Just having like a 10 episode season and that be its own thing. But the reason I ask about those 3 shows, and Good Measure was the other one that I was considering, is kind of what you were already alluding to, is just like, you know, juggling it. How do you make it happen? I wasn't aware that you were still working a full-time job, so now I'm even more interested in how the heck that you're pulling all this off. But I had a question. I had a guest a while back. His name is Sean Walchef, and he's a restaurateur in SoCal. It was in San Diego. And so he's got like a barbecue restaurant that's been open for like 18 years. And now it's called Cali Barbecue. And now there's like Cali Barbecue Media. So he's does podcasts, he has multiple shows. And he said something interesting to me too, because I drive all my own stuff and have 2 kids and, you know, often feel like I'm drowning. And he said something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing, of like, when he finally like took the leap and started a second show is kind of in a way when it got easier for him. And I think that part of that is because he had to really delegate and really be like more, you know, systematic with his approach perhaps. But like, I have other ideas that I want to do, kind of like yours, not like the concept of yours, the guest list, but like you having this idea of like, I want to do a separate thing, right? Outside of my main thing. And so really what I'm getting to is like, how the hell do you pull it off? Like what is your structure in approaching this? Because you've built this big thing with Patrick Hicks music stories. That's kind of the foundation. And then you still see something that you want to explore creatively, but there's also, the logistics of that. So now using that with your parenthood, with your job, what's your approach? How do you execute?
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a lot of just kind of doing it in the cracks of the day, like when you have time, a lot of doing it at night. When my wife is putting the kids down, like I'll be working when it's my turn to put the kids down after they're kind of drifting off, but they're not quite asleep yet. I'm editing. If I do it in front of them, they're looking at my phone and they're like, "Ooh, why is there so many dad ads?" Because they see like the all my face along the bottom of the screen while I'm editing. I have a corporate job where there's a lot of meetings where you're kind of listening, but you can be multitasking. And I just kind of come on at the end and, all right, thanks everybody. Like those kind of meetings. I'm editing or researching. So yeah, it's just like getting in everywhere, and it's maybe not the healthiest, but we're kind of hoping that this builds to something, that this turns
Yeah.
into something that could be full time. So for now, we're kind of pedal to the metal, like doing as much as we can. And I've just kind of given up a lot of other hobbies. Like I used to, be like a really big sports fan, and I haven't watched a basketball game in like all the way through a basketball game in like, three years. Like
Yeah,
it's
that's like
other
the
than the
first one to
finals.
go.
Yeah,
I
like
had that epiphany too. So I'm in North Carolina, so college basketball is king.
yeah,
Yeah, and so at one point I had this epiphany. I was just like, bro, I can't. This is like a 19-year-old, and I'm not trying to, poop on sports because I love sports, but like this is a 19-year-old throwing a ball through a hoop. Like I can't be like losing sleep over this and being stressed out days later. Like, come on, man, you got to
right.
reprioritize. So I watch it when I can. Last night I was watching the Dallas and Philadelphia game, the NFL game, and for better for worse, I have grown up a Cowboys fan. But there was like a rain delay, and it was like 10:30 at night. I was already staying up later than I normally do, and they're like, the earliest we can be back is 11:15. I'm like, sorry, I gotta go. This
Yeah,
is not, But 5 years ago, 10 years ago, rain staying up to 1 a.m. to watch that game. Can't do that anymore. So I was going to ask, and you were already touching on that, like what is your ultimate goal or maybe dream with what you've built here with Music Stories? What would you like to see that turn into?
yeah. I mean, I would love to do full length documentaries. That's something I would love to do. Kind of expand on things. Um, I would love to have my own show. Like I really feel like the format would be perfect for like a Netflix show or a Apple TV, Hulu. I don't know, whoever will have me. And I've gone down that road a little bit before, kind of trying to put together like a pitch deck and pitching shows. I actually got to pitch to MTV, which was cool, or
Sick.
Paramount Plus. Um, so that was really cool. They said that they're not focusing on music content right now, which makes a lot of sense. Um, but ultimately, I mean, I could totally see there needs to be kind of the next generations behind the music. Um, and like, I would love to see like what I could do with a budget and some flashier visuals and stuff like that. So I think that would kind of be a natural extension. But yeah, it'd be amazing if this could turn into a full-time thing. But we're working on it.
I'd love to talk to you about that outside of the show too. I mean, I'm a documentary filmmaker, but just I'm super interested in that, and you're doing it. That's one thing that I would say is like you are doing it. You're getting the audience. You've got a lot of eyes on it, so I think you're on the path. Just keep chipping away at it because I think obviously your content resonates. Now,
Yeah.
what was the goal initially when you started creating this? I mean, could you have imagined what it turned into at this point?
Yeah, no, not at all. I was not thinking that when I started. No, it was just a challenge to do something creatively. I had always been doing creative things. Like I wrote scripts and I did improv. I had studied here at Second City in Chicago, and like I'd always been doing things, not even necessarily with like an eye on this is going to turn into something. Mostly just like to keep myself sane. Like I need to have some kind of creative outlet, and yeah, I was just kind of like stalled, maybe in like a little bit of a slump. And my wife was like, "You should do a new challenge. Like we're big believers in like a 30-day challenge. Like just doing something is oftentimes like that is what it's all about. Like just do it, because other people, they have ideas and they don't do anything because, oh, it's not the perfect idea, or it's not the perfect time, or I don't have the resources to do it the way I want to do it. Just do it. So she was like, do something creative. And I was like, we'd watched a lot of TikTok. We shared TikToks back and forth a lot. And so I was like, oh, I'll make a TikTok channel. And she denies this, but she was a little skeptical at first. But then quickly was like, okay, if this is what you want to do, then like I'll support it. But at first she was like, what are you going to make a TikTok channel about? And I was like, I know a lot about music. I'll tell music stories. And so it was just supposed to be that 30-day challenge. And then within like 2 weeks, I had a video that got 1 million views. So I think we were like, oh, all right, maybe this could be something. Like, this is kind of crazy. Let's keep going past the 30 days. And then it just like crazy stuff kept happening. And, I kept getting these cool opportunities to cover music festivals and do speaking engagements, and cool people were following me. And like every time we think like, okay, this is maybe run its course and let's move on, like another cool thing happens. Like this year I got to go to the Tribeca Film Festival, and my videos were like shown on a big screen in a movie theater. I was like, all right, like this gets kind of all worth it. As long as like cool opportunities keep happening, I'm going to keep doing it. And yeah, so it's hard like to not kind of get in your head like, oh, all right, this could be something. If you have this many people following you and telling you that, you have something, it's like we kind of owe it to ourselves to, let's see what it could be. Let's just keep going and see what could happen.
That's a great way to put a stamp on that. We do owe it to ourselves. Why is it? I know so many people that have had success, specifically on TikTok, but maybe not only, that have started off with this 30-day challenge. It's always 30 days, I've noticed. Why is that? I don't want to say the key, because I'm sure there are people it hasn't worked out for, but like, is that a mental thing, or is that like a practical, functional thing of like just building the habit, or is it? Yeah.
I don't know the science behind 30. I know we got it from a TED Talk. There was a TED Talk about like do something for 30 days, and you build a habit and you can finish something. I think the example in the TED Talk is like, if you wrote a certain number of pages every day for 30 days, you would have a book done. Maybe it's not a good book, but like you would have it. It would be done. And then maybe you could like revise it or whatever. But it just proves to yourself like how many people want to write a book, but then think, I couldn't write a book. But like you can just do it. And yeah, that was definitely, I think, a psychological part of it, because if I wasn't doing a 30-day challenge, I might have stopped. Like, because the first couple of videos, like nobody watched them. It was kind of embarrassing. And, but I had to keep posting every day because that was the challenge. And then consistency is so key, especially on TikTok, that like the more you post, the more the algorithm is going to kind of like you. And then eventually you find the video that hits, and you keep it going. So I don't know if 15 days versus 30 days really matters, but I don't know. It was just a good framing device to be like, all right, you could do anything for 30 days.
The point that TED Talker made about might not be a good book. I think it's actually key, super key. Can you talk to me about the concept of like just being okay with the first few not being great, and like pushing forward through that? Because I think a lot of people, a lot of creators, artists, etc., that have an idea they want to pursue, get in your head about like, oh, this isn't good, and usually, it fades out. So how important is it for people to be okay with it not being good at first?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so important. There's like I think it's Ira Glass. There's like a thing where they talk about, and specifically in the context of music, like, you start out and you have all these bands that you're influenced by, and you're like, I want to sound like Radiohead or whatever. And then you start out and you're like, well, of course you don't sound like Radiohead because you're just starting and you suck. And Radiohead didn't sound like Radiohead when they first started either, but like you didn't hear that part. And then so there's this tendency to like give up, but I think you have to push past that. You have to just keep going, even though it's not quite what you want it to be. Like you have to keep going. I think there's like a Bob Ross quote too, right? Where he's like, I was not born a natural artist. Like people look at me and say, oh, I don't have the talent to do what you do. It's not a talent. It's a learned skill. Like I practice every day. So yeah, I think you just got to kind of like, man, my first videos are real cringy. Like the first one I ever posted, I put a song on it because on TikTok you can add music onto the video. It's like, oh, this would be cool. And it's way too loud and you can like barely hear me. You can only hear the song and like the editing is terrible. I didn't know what I was doing. Um, but like, who cares? Like everybody has to start somewhere. And once you push past that initial like embarrassment, then eventually you get to the place where like you are happy with what you're doing and you've learned, and then it's like fun to go back and you're like, oh my god, look how bad these were. So yeah, you just kind of have to embrace. And I just really believe like doing it is the most important thing. Even with this project, the guest list, like we had originally imagined, my wife and I kind of came up with the idea together, and we were thinking like, it's a different way to do an interview show. And we really like Hot Ones or like Chicken Shop Date, like those types of shows where it's celebrities, but you're doing something like you're eating wings or so we're like, what could we do with that with music? We're like, oh, maybe if you were building a playlist together, like that would be cool. And so the idea was like, we would love to get a studio and cameras and have celebrities come. But then we're like, all right, well, one, we don't know any celebrities. We're not going to get like super famous celebrities. Two, we don't have like the money to do all this or the resources. So we kind of sat on it for a while, and then we're like, you know what, let's just do it. Let's start on Zoom and let's interview people and let's get who we could get and who would be interesting. And then maybe it builds and it improves over time. And you also got to remember, like, I don't know, like, did you start watching Hot Ones in the very first episode? Like, no, nobody did. Like, you find these shows when they already have like 100 episodes and then they're already kind of fully formed. And then that's when people discover it. So you've got time before people are watching you. So
it's a great point. Speaking of the guests, though, I mean, you've had amazing guests on that show. I know you've had Perlman on there. Coco Mocó. I love Coco Mocó. I saw that you interviewed her. And I got to take a second and just give a special shout out to Jacob Givens, because I know that he was kind of an inspiration of yours in a way, right? Yeah. To get started. Aren't you an emo fan? Yeah, I know you came up in the punk world. Am I right about that?
Sure. Yeah, I like some emo stuff. That was a little after my time.
I'm thinking more like well, Jacob had posted about Sunny Day Real Estate, like so more that era, and I found out through one of his videos that they were touring, and they had, I never got to see them back in the day, and so I shared the love of them. My brother introduced me to them. I've lost my brother now; he passed away a few years ago, and I knew it was going to be emotional seeing them, because we really shared that with him, and I wrote like a piece about it, and I sent it to Jacob, because I would have never been if it weren't for him. So he's always got a special place in my heart.
That's nice.
Yeah, and I love that. I love his content so much. It's so relatable. But my ask about the guests is like, what is your strategy to get some of those bigger names now? Obviously, let's be clear that I think the size of your audience helps, or at least that's a factor. But what's your approach?
Really just like Instagram DMs, emails if I could find them, and really just like cold emailing and stuff. Some people, like Jeff Pearlman was following me on TikTok, but we'd never talked or anything. But I just messaged him on there, and he was real open to it. Coco Mocó, I actually met. We were part of this Substack group. Substack was like trying to get video creators to come to their platform, and they selected like 10 people for this fellowship, and they brought us to New York for this party. And Coco Mocó was one of them. And I went, and she's an influencer with like 1 million+ followers, and she's younger than me, like Gen Z. So I was kind of expecting her to be like, I didn't expect she would be mean or anything, but I thought she would like, I don't know, be kind of an influencer, or like think she was like too good to talk to me a little bit. And she was so nice. Like she was so friendly, and like I showed up late, and like I was full of like social anxiety. Like I got lost getting to this party, and so I was late showing up, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to like sit at a table by myself. And she like scooted over, and she's like, oh, come over here and like sit next to me. So nice. So we kind of kept in touch since then. And then we were also at Tribeca together. So she did the podcast, and it was really fun. It's always fun to talk to people who like, you think of them in one certain way, and it's like, all right, I don't know what kind of music she's going to be into. And then she's like busting out like, oh my God, I love Lil Wayne and Frank Sinatra. And it was like such a varied like taste. It was cool.
I
But
love those
super nice
moments.
person.
I love those moments when you're pleasantly surprised by people. And I also think like it's so simple in front of people's faces that it gets overlooked a lot. Just the simple DM strategy works so well. I mean, that's how I connected with you. I mean, I'd been following you and I just sent you a message, and I think people feel like it's out of bounds, but it's like that's what it's for. Like those are the beautiful moments when social media is doing what it was intended to do, in my opinion. I've gotten huge guests that are heroes of mine just by simply reaching out,
Yeah.
because a lot of them are working their accounts. Not all of them, but many of them are, or at least
Yeah.
check it.
Yeah, I think people think like, oh no, this is not their real account. They're going to have somebody handling this. I think on Instagram and TikTok, it's them.
Yeah.
Um, and like a lot of people ignore me, or a lot of people have said, oh, here's like my manager's email. Um, but I got somebody that I really love. So my wife and I are huge fans of the show RuPaul's Drag Race,
Yes.
and they just did an all-star season, and so there's one queen we really love, is this queen Denali, who lives in Chicago, which is where we are, but like we don't know her, but we're just like huge fans. And we had emailed her management company and didn't hear back, and then I just DM'd her, and she was like, oh, this sounds fun, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's crazy, because it was in the middle of her appearing on this all-star season. I was like, she's probably busy, but she's like, yeah, it sounds fun, I'll do it. And she was amazing. So
That's killer. Yeah. Yeah, if you can get a hold of them and the pitch is right, it also has to be alignment, right? Like something that makes sense for them. Like she said, oh, that's interesting. So that is one key, is like to have an interesting thing to talk about, not just saying like, hey, come be on my show, come be on my
right,
show.
right.
But if you come at it from the right angle, and yeah, you're going to get a lot of no's, or a lot of management teams that make you like apply and tell them, who you are and your credentials and all that. But you get a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
mean, I
yeses.
definitely don't take the no's personally. It's like, yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite comedian of all time is Patton Oswalt, and he actually responded and he
Nice.
said no, but it was like the nicest no. It was like, I must politely pass with an exclamation point. I was like, yeah,
I can like hear him saying that.
this is almost better than getting him. And it's like
I know.
it was like my first rejection, and it was so nice. And so I was like, all right, they're all going to be, you know what I mean? They're all going to be easy after this.
Dude, I totally can. I literally can hear him saying that. That's awesome. And yeah, and you had an interaction with him. And the thing that I love about life is like you never know, that might reappear and manifest in some other way in the future. Like you have had a connection. I got Stephen Pressfield, who wrote the War of Art on my show, and twice, and I look up to him so much, and a lot of writers do. And it was just by having chats on Instagram.
Yeah.
He lived at Durham for a long time. I live in Durham now, and eventually made the ask, and he couldn't at the moment, but a year or two later, it happened. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's just planting seeds, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You never know what's going to change or what's going to lead to what. So, yeah, just put it out there.
Just put it out there. This is a little bit of a cheesy question, but I think I'm in good company here. I love your approach. I love the guest list, and I just want to say, like, it's obvious that music plays such a big role in our lives. I wonder why you think that is. I know that's super vague, super broad, but like when I think of as a filmmaker, when I think about my favorite scenes in film, they're always married to the song.
Sure.
For me, at least. And I think it's not super unique, right? I'm probably not alone in that. Obviously, we can channel back moments of our lives. I was just telling my wife the other day, I always used to bug out when my mom would be like, a song would be on the radio, she'd be like, 1962. And I'm like, how do you remember that? And now I find myself going, 2007.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because I remember how old I was, not because I'm like just a trivia guy, but like because I'm associating with that with like where I was in my life. Why is music specifically so profound and such a big player in like the nostalgia of our lives?
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's just got to be some weird kind of evolutionary programming of like why music is so powerful. And yeah, I think it is that. It's just, it has that uncanny ability to take you back to a time, like even music before I was born. Like, you hear something recorded in the 60s, you can tell it's from the 60s. And so I love getting lost in like reading a book about, whatever decade, like reading a book about the Haight-Ashbury scene in the 60s. And then I'm listening to like Jefferson Airplane while I'm reading it, and I'm just like so transported to that time. And yeah, like same with movies. Like I grew up loving like Quentin Tarantino and Martin Scorsese, and those movies would not be what they were if it wasn't for the soundtrack. And you're thinking of, listening to Layla while you're seeing dead bodies in the freezer truck or whatever. Like that scene is not going to have the same power without that. So yeah, I don't know if I could like put my finger on what it is, but I think it just transports you in a way that other things can't. And it's so quick. It's like, yeah, I could watch a whole movie and feel like I'm transported to another place, but I could put on a song and in like 10 seconds of the music, it could be a drum intro, and I'm like, oh my God, gated reverb, take me back to the 80s. Like it's so powerful and so quick, and and it can cheer you up. It can, like, I put it on if I'm angry, I put it on if I'm sad. Like it kind of, you can find music that fits every single emotion that you're having, and I find it's kind of the best art to like use for whatever you need it for. So
Hmm.
I do have a lot of other interests, which is kind of why I wanted to do the guest list and talk to other people, because I do love
Yeah.
movies and books and video games and sports, but kind of music, I think, overarches all of that. Like everybody
Y-
loves music and has some connection to music. So
Yeah,
the
and
most universal thing.
I totally agree. And I also think it's embedded in all of those other things.
Right.
Right? Like it is a part of sports. We have a lot of, I mean, even just like, the Chicago Bulls song, right, from the 90s, right? Or
Oh yeah.
music is definitely tied to that. It's obviously tied to film, right? So like it might be this centerpiece that is connected to all of these things. It's certainly connected to those two disciplines or whatever. That's interesting. I want to think more about that, but it might be the conduit, because you can always connect with somebody about that and then take the conversation where it may lead. So
Yeah.
I think that's a good approach to talk about other things, but staying in with your core. It's actually
Yeah.
that's a really good strategy. This I don't love these like on the spot questions like what would you take on a deserted island, but so I won't make you say like what's your favorite. I can never answer that question. But what are some good music books
Mm.
that you love?
Let's see. One I really love is Dave Grohl's book Storyteller. I think
Mm.
it's just an incredible book. I read the book and I also did the audiobook that he narrates. It's just fantastic. The stories are so good. I love a little bit of unconventional biography. Like it is not just a point A to point B. It's kind of just like, here are the best stories that I have, and they're not necessarily in chronological order, but it works together to paint a picture of his life and what it's like being a rock star. And I mean, specifically going through what he went through. It talks about Nirvana stuff, Foo Fighter stuff. It's everything. That book I think is fantastic. Bruce Springsteen's autobiography I think is amazing. That's another one that I really love. Um, as far as like not artist autobiographies, but like books about music, one of the first books I ever read that was like really kind of maybe pushed me to being an amateur music historian is this book called England's Dreaming by this guy John Savage, and it's this very thick, like comprehensive tome about like late '70s English punk, and it was cool because this is like the kind of music that I liked, but I didn't realize you could have like a scholarly work, like a thick textbook of the buzz, like talking about the buzzcocks and talking about these the vibrators, like just talking about people pogo dancing and spitting on people. And that was kind of the first one where I was like, oh, this stuff is important.
Yeah.
Like this, anything that affects people's lives is important to study. I think people a lot of times think music history is not important, and especially when it comes to like pop music, or even like hip hop is not studied as in depth as like classic rock does. Like there's books about every single Bob Dylan song ever written, and I love Bob Dylan, and that's great. But like we don't do that same thing for like you know Public Enemy or something. Like I would love the kind of exhaustive scholarly research that we put into the Beatles to be put into hip hop and pop music. But
It's such a great call, and I think this is a really important point because it's not happening in a vacuum, right? It is history. It's not just music history. It's history, and it's happening for a reason. Hip hop happened for a reason, right?
Right.
Have you seen? You might not, because I think it just came out. We Want the Funk, the documentary.
No, not
Okay,
yet.
dude, put that one on your list. So in Durham we have Full Frame Film Festival. It's a big documentary film festival, and I was there this year on a like as a creator, like on a press pass, and so I got to see it screening there, and I think it's on PBS. Um, but it was absolutely incredible and touched on the Independent Lens series on PBS. It touched on the birth of hip hop coming from that, because they used all the funk beats when they were starting, but it's so good, and it's right up your alley in terms of a music history piece.
Yeah.
Talking about how funk came about, what it is, what it isn't. I mean, going into Bowie, going into all the it influenced, but such a fun ride too. Like, I mean, just seeing that in the theater. Obviously, the soundtrack was incredible. But yeah, put that one on your list. We Want the Funk. It's
I gotta watch that.
So fun, quick one too, like 80 minutes. But it's it's chock full. It doesn't take the foot off the gas the whole time.
Nice. Yeah. Speaking of funk, Sly Stone's autobiography that just came out last year. Also, it's last year or the year before, I can't remember.
Yeah,
but
I'm familiar, but I haven't read it.
it's so good. It's really fun. He's a character, but it's
and he's in that movie quite a bit, obviously, for his role in the whole era.
Yeah, I gotta check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. When you started creating the content, it took off fairly. You said a couple weeks. You started, you had one that hit 1 million. Do you see some consistency in what people respond to more than others in terms of content?
Yeah, I will say there's kind of a formula of like what is going to be big. Like, there has to. It usually only hits if I'm talking about an artist who everybody knows. Like, the bigger the artist, the better it does. Unfortunately, it's not always the case. I've done some big artists where it's not quite there. It also has to be a compelling story. Like, so what I do, if people haven't seen my stuff, is like, I don't just sit down and be like, this is the story of the Eagles. Like, that to me is boring and it's been done. I want to see, like, what is some kind of universal theme I can pull out of a music story. So, and the biggest video I ever did was about the band No Doubt. And so that kind of hit all the beats. Like, it is a very popular band. Gwen Stefani has still kind of been in the culture. Like, people know her from The Voice. So you're going to cross generations. That's also important. So, like, Gen X and millennials, like, we know No Doubt. Younger kids know her solo stuff maybe, or just that she's married to some country guy and now has lost her mind. But people know who she is. Then the story is incredible. Like, and the story has these universal themes of, like, she was not supposed to be the lead singer of a band. She was the little sister of a, like, musician who wrote all the songs, wrote, like, the lyrics. And then there was another lead singer of No Doubt, this guy, John Spence, who is this super charismatic, like, incredible lead singer. If you see video, he's like doing backflips on stage, and he is like the focal point of the band. So she doesn't write the songs. She's not the lead singer. She's very much like the little sister in the background. And then John Spence dies by suicide, and he's no longer in the band. So she's kind of thrust into the lead singer role. And then her brother, right before their biggest album, Tragic Kingdom, her brother quits the band to go write for The Simpsons. So now she has to be the lead singer, the front person of this band, and has to write the songs. And the first song she writes on her own without her brother Eric is Just a Girl. And it's like, breaks them wide open, and they become like superstars. So, like, whether you like No Doubt's music or not, like, the fact that it has this kind of universal, like, overcoming obstacles and being thrust into something that maybe you're not ready for, and you have imposter syndrome, like, these are things that I think everybody could relate to. And so I think that's why that story in particular hit. Like, it had all those factors. So usually I know if something is, I also try to only tell positive stories. So much of what I grew up with, like, behind the music, which I loved, but so much of it was drug overdoses and scandals and tragedy. And so I try to, I mean, this is kind of a tragic story with the John Spence part of it, but, like, I want there to be some kind of like uplifting message. I want you to like feel good, like, oh my God, maybe I could get out there and write just a girl after watching this. So like I want people to like get an uplifting type of feeling from these stories. So I think if you combine all those things, and when you hit all those points, like I'm usually like, okay, this is maybe going to be a big one. But you also never know. Like, who knows?
True. I mean, sometimes it's just like has to deal with the time that it was posted, or who. I mean, there's a million other factors.
Right.
I think that's definitely still a positive story. Even I mean, overcoming the challenge is the hopeful message there. But that's a really unique take. I think that's a wise choice that you made, because you're 100% right. It's always death, overdose, addiction. Even at best, it's like overcoming addiction 30 years later, quitting the heroin or whatever. I think that's such a great choice that you made to do like positive, uplifting stories. And also, people just like to learn, right? What are the things? Entertain, educate, or inspire, right? And you're kind of doing them all in terms of content creation. But people, if you give them anytime I tell someone a story that they haven't heard before about whatever topic, it instantly works. I think just because people are interested in learning, and for some reason in that format, not for some reason, I mean, someone talking to you is more enjoyable and a little easier to digest than reading, right? And I might not go get a book on this topic, but I can listen to a 90-second TikTok and then, maybe compel me to learn more. So I think that's a big part of it, is they want to learn stuff. They want to learn stuff. Yeah. And if you can deliver it in a cool, compelling way, then, you've got something.
I do. It's like important to me that I want somebody to learn something that they didn't know before. So like, even if they knew the story, I try to like dig deep and like, let me find at least one thing that I didn't know that I don't think like other people will know. That's the best. So if somebody comments like, I already knew all this already, then that's heartbreaking.
And they will comment. Everybody knows this, Patrick. Dude, I love some of the commenters. It's like, are you having a bad day?
Yeah. That is the best and worst part of doing it.
If you can laugh at it, like sometimes it legitimately cracks me up, because I'm like, oh man, this is just wild that they took the time to even write that. In terms of research, how much time do you generally spend? How deep do you go? Or are most of these like starting from a place of like, I already kind of know this story, let me find some other stuff out? Or do you start some that are just like blank slate?
Yeah, some are definitely blank slates. Where I don't know anything. Maybe somebody suggested it, or like I don't know. I did one recently. It came up. I had interviewed Margaret Cho for the guest list, and she one of the questions was like, "What's something you associate with an activity?" And she said everybody should do acid while listening to the Joe Cocker version of "With a Little Help from My Friends." And unbeknownst to me, my dad listened to this podcast. And so he's like, oh man, I went on this deep dive with Joe Cocker, and I was watching his footage at Woodstock. And then he casually drops in. He's like, I covered this music festival in Evansville, Indiana once. And I was like, you covered a music festival? You didn't think you should bring this up to your music obsessed son? So he starts telling me about this music festival, but he can't remember the name or like the details. So I was like, well, let me look it up. And then I uncovered this crazy story of not the festival that he covered, but the same guys that put that one on a couple months later tried to do another even bigger festival in which Joe Cocker was supposed to be one of the headliners. And it was this epic disaster. Like, it was this horrible failure where like people died, and not as many people as you would think, but like people died. The headliners didn't show up. There was rioting and there's all this crazy stuff. And I didn't know anything about it. I'd never heard of it. So I was completely starting from scratch, and just I had to research, and there was a guy who attended who wrote a book about it, and there were newspaper articles from the time, and so there was quite a lot of research that went into that. There's some other people who had made documentaries about it, so that was like a fascinating one to me, but which I had no knowledge ahead of time. So it was all from scratch. So that one probably took a little longer than most, but even when I know the story, I want to make sure, that I'm getting the details right, and then I'm digging deep. So I find something, that I didn't know.
I always say, and I don't own this, lots of people say this, but like, if you want to be a better storyteller, become a better listener.
Mm.
or if you want to be a better interviewer, be curious, right? And that's you in this story that you just told me. How important is it for you, the creator, to really follow your curiosity in terms or in the interest of creating the best content?
Yeah, that's everything. It always starts with my own curiosity. So there's so many bands that, people have requested because they like the band. And then I've looked and maybe I love the band, but it's like, there's just no story here. It's two guys met in college and liked the same music, so they started a band. It was like, okay, what would that tell me? But like, if there's something I'm curious about, and then I can start like unraveling something, then it's like, oh, okay, now we have something here. Yeah, especially if it's like, I remember one, I've talked about this story a lot because it's one of my favorites, but I remember I was doing a story on Minnie Riperton a long time ago. And, I knew the basic outlines of her story, but I was like reading, I think, the Wikipedia page. Like I just started basic and was reading Wikipedia. And there was like a line that was like, an intern at a record label goes to find her in Florida to like convince her to get back to making music. So she had made an album that was not successful, and then she had kids. She had Maya Rudolph as her daughter, and she'd moved with her husband to Florida and was not making music. And the Wikipedia was like, this intern found her. And I was like, well, who is the intern? Like, what was the intern's name? And so I'm like, okay, I'm following the link now that Wikipedia uses as the source, and that doesn't have the name. I'm like, okay, now this is like everything to me. I must find out like who was this intern. And I eventually found it, and it was a guy named Steve Slutza. Which, like, how do you not put that? How do you not put that in your story if that's the guy's name? Like, sometimes that's what I'm looking for. Give me a funny name, and like, there's a story there. So I found the guy's name, and then that kind of like broke open the wider story. And it's not like that was the focal point of the story, but I made sure that I got that in there, that there was a guy named Steve Slutza. And I don't know. So a lot of times for me, that's what I'm looking for, is like, what's the thing that is left out of the Cliff Notes version? Because that might be the interesting thing, or the thing that people might not know. So yeah, I'm definitely, a lot of times it's just chasing my own curiosity, like trying to figure out, who was that? What was that name? Who was that? It was one on Fabulous too, which was a similar thing. It was like, a lot of these times when you're telling the artist's story, it's just like, oh, and then this person introduced them to Michael Jackson or whatever. And we're like, who knew Michael Jackson? Like, you breezed over the most important part to me. So that's a lot of times what I dig into, and those can make the best kind of mini stories.
Absolutely. Besides the lesson, which was so great about just finding the universal theme, in those stories that might tie to other people, that even if they don't know Gwen Stefani's story per se, what other lessons have you learned in the content creation journey that either helps you execute, or helps the videos perform better, or connects and resonates with the audiences deeper?
I think, I learned, like, just trust my instincts. Like, if I think the story is good, I'll go with it. If I think the story is bad, and there's been a couple, where I've kind of forced it out because, a lot of people have asked for this, or I've done some like brand deals where, I have to talk about a certain artist, and it's like, well, I would have chosen to do this because the story's not there, and I have to kind of force it. So I've just learned to kind of trust my instincts with like what I think is good, what details I think should be included. Um, you get so many, backseat drivers in the comments are like, I can't believe you didn't talk about this, or man, the bane of my existence is you forgot. And oh, you forgot this part. I guarantee you I did not forget. I've never forgotten to put something into a video in like the 3 years I've been doing this. It's because I considered it and it didn't fit the story, and I'm keeping it to, under 10 minutes. And I just like didn't include that part. I didn't forget anything. And I've heard other like content creators or podcasters say this before, like there's only so much time. And so yeah, just like trust your instincts, do what you think is good. Man, one thing I've learned is, if you mispronounce something, you will have a billion people in the comments telling you. So I try so hard to like search out, because most of my research is reading, and it's like, I don't know how to pronounce every town. So then I have to go on YouTube and try to find somebody who made a video about their town and find out how to pronounce it. So yeah, I do try my best to pronounce things correctly. Because I just don't. You don't want to read a million comments if you
No.
pronounce
But
something wrong, and
that's
then
like a hack now.
take
Like
away from the
people will
podcast.
misspell things in the text or mispronounce things on purpose
Yeah, to
to
get the
conjure up
engagement.
that engagement, which is the plus side of people who are like, you forgot this. But
Right.
it is annoying. So I'm like you. It's like I don't want to deal with that, even though I know that helps. But it is I
No, I
can't
would
hate.
rather, yeah, not have the engagement than to. I'm trying to establish myself as like an authority. I don't want people going
Yeah.
around thinking this guy makes mistakes,
Yeah, I
especially
don't want
like
to hate
on
the I don't
purpose.
want to hate the game, but it does seem a little, I don't know what the word is, not cringy to like intentionally mispronounce or misspell something just to get that. It's like it's gimmicky, right? It's not, it's not
Yeah,
authentic. I
I
don't know.
have I grew up in the '90s. I still have a lot of like I don't want to sell out kind of stuff, and I have to fight it because I know that that's not a thing that matters anymore. But there's still just a part of it. It's like I can't promote my stuff. That's so
Yeah.
weird, and I can't do things for a lot of times it's like, ooh, this is trending. Should I make a video about it? And I was like, no,
Great
I
point.
I want I'm on my own schedule of like who I'm going to talk about and like what stories I want to do, and I'm not going to do something just because it's in the news. And
The thing is,
maybe it would be better if I did, but I don't know. That's what I'm saying is trust your instincts, and I think
yeah.
you'll last longer.
It's I'm so glad you made that point because I was also going to ask about like the length of your videos. It all ties into this that you're not really you're just making content that you believe in, you're curious about, following your instincts as you said. And there's always this debate about like best practices and hooks and trends, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like you can be successful that way, but you can also be successful just doing exactly what you want to do, long form, no cuts and flashy things or tricks or hacks or any of that stuff. And the common factor is consistently delivering the value that you've promised from what I've learned. So if it's the manner that you do it, fine. If it's doing trendy stuff and that's what people expect of you, fine. But it's not, there's not some rule that you must subscribe to. And it frustrates me when people are like, what do I need to do first, instead of following that path of like, yeah, but well, what ignites your fire, right? Like what will make you show up and talk about it every day?
Yeah. No, I definitely, yeah, there are certain things like Instagram right now. Every time I post a video, there's this big warning that pops up that's like, this is over 3 minutes and we will not show this to new audiences. And I was like, all right, could I make it to 3 minutes? But then I don't deliver what I want to deliver. And, I don't go as deep as I want to go in 3 minutes. So you just kind of have to make the choice of, I know this is not going to get as many views. It's not going to be as popular, but I don't want to put out something that I don't believe in. And
Mm,
like, when I first started out, the limit on TikTok was 3 minutes. So
right.
my early videos are 3 minutes. And, and when I watch them back now, it's like, this is not what I want. Like, it's got to be at least 5 to 6 minutes to really tell a story that's worth telling for me.
It's just such a great lesson in there. I'm glad we're kind of ending on that because I also hear often like this attention span problem, and it's not. It's a myth, right? It's people will watch things that are long. They'll listen to 3 hour podcasts. It's that we have so much competition that if you don't have that value, if I'm not interested, I'll scroll away quickly. It's not an attention problem in my opinion. And that's a good example. It's like if you're delivering value and they're interested in it, they're going to learn something that they didn't know. They'll be entertained. Yeah, they'll stick by you. So I think I'm so glad you mentioned that because that's such a good lesson for other creators and creatives out there to know. It's like there's not one way to do it. There's an infinite amount of paths
Yeah.
to
I
creating.
mean, yeah, if anything, I think it sets me apart that I do longer videos. Like I like
Agreed.
watching long videos on TikTok, and if the trend on TikTok is like no attention span and short and punchy and like a billion edits, then I'll go the other way, and then I'll capture the people that want something longer and slower. And because I don't know, and also like make the kind of content that you like because you have to make it and watch it and spend all this time editing it. Like I think if I was making spastic, super short. Like I do think I could get more views if I was doing things that were like more obvious or shorter and dumber. But
Maybe.
I don't want that. So like,
Yeah. And
I'd rather just make the content I want to make.
Yeah, and let's be real, like it's worked for you, right? You've built a massive
Right.
audience. People are resonating with it. Like, kind of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Like, I don't think you need that, and there's not, it's not a guarantee that it would give you more views because
Right.
it probably wouldn't land the way that your content does. Before we go, last thing I want to ask, I'm always interested in folks. I know you were probably, I think you were like in your late 30s when you started the TikTok channel. Is that
39. Yeah.
39? So very late, knocking on the door. I think we're the same age too, pal.
That's
I'm always interested in this. I mentioned Stephen Pressfield earlier. He published his first book at age 52, and I'm always interested in creatives that, follow their passions a little bit later in life. Obviously, 39 is not like knocking on death's door, but I think we get away from it sometimes and feel like we can't go get it back. We've done something for 20 years and we feel like that's our path, and there's this itch in the back of our heads that we never quite get to. And I am very inspired by stories of people who find that passion again when they're older. And like I said, the very first question with you, like your journey kind of separated from where you started and then came back to what you loved as a child
yeah.
in such a beautiful way, dude. I'm sorry to get, so excited about
Yeah.
it, but I really,
Okay.
really love it. Talk to me about, talk to that person who might have that feeling like, I can't start a TikTok at age 40.
No, no, I spent so much of my life thinking I was too late. And it like, I remember very distinctly, I was doing this like music blog with me and my buddy, and nobody really read it, but we would write about songs and post MP3s. And I remember on my 24th birthday writing this post. Is so cringy to look back on, but I was like, I fucked up my life. It's like I have accomplished nothing. Like at this age, Bob Dylan had written like a Rolling Stone, and I don't know, Kobe Bryant had 3 championships, and I haven't done anything. And like 24. Like now, my God, if I could go back to 24 with what I know now, like 24 is so young. But it took me so long to get out of that. Like I thought I was too old then. I was like, oh, my band never made it, and I didn't go to college or whatever. So I went back to college, and then I went to law school. And when I was in law school, I was a little bit older than everybody else. I was in my late 20s, and they were in their early 20s. And I was like, I'm so old. Like, I'll never make it. This was like a waste of time. What am I doing? And then it's like, it's fine. You're in your 20s still. And I got over it. And then I was actually married before the wife that I have now that's super supportive. And it didn't work out. And we got a divorce. And I was in my mid 30s. And I was like, this is it. I'll never find love again. I'll never have kids now. And then I met my wife, and we have like 2 amazing kids. And I have like the family that I always wanted. And I think maybe that is what did it. Like I started my TikTok right after I had my second daughter. And I was like, I'm still so young. I'm like, not even 40 yet. And I've got a wife and 2 great kids. Like, I could do anything. And yeah, just maybe that's the perspective. I don't know if it's the age or the family, but yeah, I just let go of all that. And I was like, who cares if and I had done this training at Second City in my 30s, which I thought was very valuable. And there's this big quote from Tina Fey that's on the wall there. That's like, nobody looks stupid if they're having fun. And it's like, who cares? Like, no, I don't care about if anybody's judging me or if they think I'm too old to be doing this. Like, I'm having fun. This is what I want to be doing. And then it worked. And it was like, okay, I don't know, 30 million people have watched me tell stories on my phone in my room. And like, I'm having fun. It worked. And like, who cares that I'm a old bald dad doing it? Like, it's like the best thing I ever did.
Well, from one old bald dad to another, my friend, I appreciate you so much. This was quite a pleasure. I love that line from Tina Fey. That's a great place to end, man. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. See you soon.
Bye.
My name is Rain Bennett. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed that episode, do us a favor and subscribe to the podcast. If you're already a subscriber and you're enjoying the show, give us a review and let us know the value that you've gotten from it. We love to hear from our listeners and learn about the benefits that they're getting from the show. That's what fuels us, and that's what fuels the show. And if you've already subscribed and you've already reviewed it and you think there's someone else that would benefit from listening to this show, please share it with them. The more we grow, the more we can help you grow, and that's what we're here to do. Join us next time on the Storytelling Lab.